Hi. It's time to start thinking about some of those first writing assignments, and the first one relates to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You have the book by Mary Shelley, and this is one of the first science fiction works. This is one of the first horror works, I suppose. Others would think of it as a work of romantic fiction. There is an era in literature, an era in European society and art that's called the Romantic period, and it seems in many ways to be a reaction to the science, the Industrial Revolution that's been taking place in Europe up to the time that Mary Shelley is writing. As you probably know, she's writing in the 1800s, early 1800s, and it's an interesting work that we'll talk a little bit more about in this PowerPoint, but it seems to have been inspired by a dark and stormy night. I'm filming this video on a dark and stormy night, and so I think, as we've been having in the spring of 2016, a lot of dark and stormy nights, so it's a good book to curl up to. It's a good book to read. And if you haven't had the chance to read the original, please do take a taste of it. Again, it's a work of literature inspired by the age in which Mary Shelley is living. So one of the points of this class, Science and Society, is to take a look not only at the history of science and how it changed us all philosophically, religiously, perhaps socially, economically, but also to think about literature and the impact that science has had on literature. And so we go with Mary Shelley, one of the first works of science fiction, if not the first. Yeah. So I have on my screen here, and feel free to get it up yourself. I have on my screen this business of your assignment, and this is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, the assignment itself. I'm asking that you read the book. Please read it, and that you then write a reflection some 4 to 5 pages long. Some people will go over that limit, some people will be a little under. So long as you do the work, it's fine, so long as you get the job done. The idea here is to pick a thesis, pick a question, an idea that you want to explore. So for example, I've suggested things like, some have said Mary Shelley's writing, her Frankenstein, is a response to the scientific revolution. Yes, no. So can you find elements discussing the scientific revolution or that speak to that concept? Ooh, there's a little thunder in her writing. Others have suggested Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is a response to the Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th century changed living for people in so many ways, if nothing else, in that people moved to cities in Europe in tremendous numbers, and when that, looking for work, right? And so when that happened, the cities just couldn't cope. Cities were overcrowded. Cities became dangerous. Most cities didn't have police forces, let alone decent water supplies. So it may be that in her day, she too was thinking that the world is changing so quickly, it's becoming monstrous. Look what we've created. Let's see, other questions I have. What's the theological response to science? There are a lot of ethical issues raised here in Shelley's Frankenstein. If you know your Jurassic Park, and you know that very famous line that's given to Jeff Goldblum, scientists asked whether or not we could create this dinosaur, this monster. Shouldn't we have asked whether we should? Right? So we never stop to ask whether we should. There are lots of theological issues. There are lots of references to Victor sort of becoming a God figure. So what has science wrought in an age of religion, in an age of how do we cope theologically, philosophically, spiritually with this new science, with this new change in our lives associated with the scientific revolution? So there you have it. Please also get some sources besides Shelley's Frankenstein itself. Find some resources that'll help you address your issue. Please make them responsible resources, not just other people's papers, not just blog posts, etc. Make sure that they are resources from literature, from science, from history that are reasonable, well supported. Yeah, you know what you're looking for. So get some decent sources, please. Also, try to figure out a way to use elements from your reading. Can I use a quote here and there to make sense of my point, to drive home my idea? Now, that's just me checking up to making sure you're working on the paper and you're actually reading the book, right, and using it. But on the other hand, don't make your paper just a string of quotes. Let's don't have one quote after another after another. I want to read what you have to say. I want to see what you're thinking about this idea of literature being influenced by science. All right. So there's much more to come, but take a look at that assignment in the information tab at Blackboard, and let's get going a little more on Mary Shelley and her influences and the book itself. Thank you.